Good day. Our lesson for this video is about parabola. Parabola is the set of all coplanar points that are equidistant from a fixed point and not on the fixed line. The fixed line is called the directrix of the parabola and the fixed point is called the focus. So here we have the illustration of the parabola. So this area here, the curved represents the parabola itself, and the y-axis represents the axis of symmetry since the parabola opens upward, and if your parabola opens downward, still your axis of symmetry is the y-axis. But if the parabola opens sideward, it could be in right or in left. Your axis of symmetry will become the x-axis. But here in our illustration, we have here a parabola that opens upward. Therefore, it follows that the axis of symmetry is the y-axis. And from the definition of the parabola, it is a set of all coplanar points that are equidistant from a fixed line and a fixed point not on the fixed line. And that fixed line is called the directrix. So ito ang ating directrix. And the fixed point is called the focus. So the focus is seen here at the opening of the parabola. So the distance from the vertex going to the focus is also equal to the distance from the vertex going to the directrix. And take note last that if the directrix passes or pass through the axis of symmetry, they are perpendicular. So it follows that if they're perpendicular, they form a 90-degree angle. And here, the line that passes through the focus going to both ends of the parabola or both sides of the parabola is what we call the latus rectum. For example, your latus rectum is equal to 2. For example, the distance from this line or this point going to this point is equal to 4, let's say. Therefore, it follows that from the focus going to the other side is 2. And here, going to here is also equal to 2. That makes the latus rectum equal to 4. So we have here the characteristics of parabolas with vertex at 0, 0 or located at the origin. And these are summarized in tabular form. So we have the vertex, the equation, the focus, opening of parabola, latus rectum, axis of symmetry, and directrix. As what I have shown you a while ago, the illustration of the parabola, you can see there the latus rectum, the axis of symmetry. It could be in y-axis or x-axis, and the directrix, the opposite distance from the vertex going to the other side of the curve, and the focus, it is always located in the opening of the parabola. And here we have the description if where is the opening of the parabola, what conditions should be considered, and the latus rectum. Okay, for example, we will focus first on the parabola with horizontal axis of symmetry. When we say horizontal axis of symmetry, it follows that the axis of symmetry is located on the x-axis or it is the x-axis. So it could open on left or right. So if that happens, the equation or the formula, the standard form of it is y squared is equal to 4px. And the focus is in the form of p, comma, 0 or the ordered pair of p or whatever value of p we have, and 0. Next, for the opening of the parabola, these are the conditions to be considered. If p is less than 0, the parabola opens to the left. However, if p is greater than 0, the parabola opens to the right. Later, I will give you examples about this problem or about these characteristics. And next, for the latus rectum equation, x is equal to negative or positive p, direction vertical. So, vertical siya, patayo. The length of the latus rectum is 4p. The endpoints is in the ordered pair of p, comma, positive and negative 2 times p. And for the axis of symmetry, we have here the equation. Whatever value of your k here is equal to y, or k is equal to 0. Direction of the axis of symmetry, as what I have told you, horizontal. Yan, horizontal siya. And next, equation of the directrix x is equal to negative p, direction vertical. And here, we have the parabola with vertical axis of symmetry. So, magkaiba na sila ng equation if meron tayong horizontal axis of symmetry wherein the parabola opens in right or in left movement or motion. So here, sa parabola with vertical axis of symmetry, it follows that the axis of symmetry is the y-axis. So the standard equation of it is x squared equals 4py. And our focus is in the form of the ordered pair of 0, p. Next, for the conditions to be considered, in the opening of the parabola, we have if p is less than 0, the parabola opens downward. As you can see or noticed in our Cartesian coordinate system, if the value of your p is always lesser than 0, it follows that the opening is in the negative side of the x or y axis. And if it is greater than 0, the opening is on the positive side of the y or x axis. The parabola opens upward. So, di ba, ang y natin or y axis natin doon pataas, kadalasan positive. Next, the equation of the latus rectum would be y is equal to positive and negative p. Parang pinalitan lang dito yung x ng y. Next, kapag dito vertical, horizontal dito, opposite man sila kasi. Kapag patayo ang kanyang opening, therefore, pahiga naman ang kanyang latus rectum at the same time, ang directrix. Same as to kapag napahiga ang kanyang opening or ang kanyang curve, patayo naman ang kanyang latus rectum at ang kanyang directrix. Next, the endpoints. Here we have the ordered pair of the positive and negative 2p, comma, p. And the equation, x is equal to h. Kung dito sa kanya, y is equal to k, dito naman, x is equal to h. And it follows, h is equal to 0. Tignan nyo dito. Kasi dito, pwede siya, ito yung representation kapag ang p ay nakay x, ang makikita mo dito, y. Kapag ang p naman ay nakay y, ang makikita mo dito, x. Diba sa ordered pair natin, x, y ito dapat. So, ang p dito naging y, therefore, ang makikita mo dito, x. Kung dito naman ang p mo ay x, ang makikita mo dito, y. Those are the tricks. Next, equation of the axis of symmetry, x is equal to h, and it follows h is equal to 0. Dito. Pwede mo siya makita dito. Next, the direction is vertical. And for the directrix, the equation is equal to negative p, and the direction is also horizontal. Okay, we will consider this first example for the parabola with a vertex at 0, 0. We have y squared is equal to 28x, and all we need to do is to find the coordinates of the focus and the equation of the directrix, and after that, we need to graph the curve or the parabola, its focus, and directrix. But before anything else, I just want to remind you that you should be familiar of the things seen in this table, because this will guide you on how to solve the given equation or problem. If you are given a equation or an equation, you need to look on the format if it falls under this column or in this column. If so, you can now solve your equation using the conditions or the characteristics given here. So in here we have y squared that is equal to 28x. It follows that the parabola has horizontal axis of symmetry. Therefore, the equation should be y squared is equal to 4px. This is the standard equation of this parabola. So in order for us to find 4p, since p is needed in finding the coordinates of the focus, we need to find p first. So 4p is seen here in 28. This 28 is the product of 4 times p. Therefore, we have 4p is equal to 28. Next, in order for us to find the value of p, we have to divide both sides by 4. That's why we have 4 here and 4 here. Again, this 4p is represented by 28. Again, 4p here is represented by 28 in our given equation or problem. Next, we have to find 4p. Therefore, we need to do this. 4p is equal to 28. And for us to directly find p, we need to divide both sides by 4. So, we will eliminate 4 here and p will remain. And 28 divided by 4 is 7. Now we have the value of p, which is equal to 7. Since the focus is in the point of p and 0, we will just substitute p here. Where did we get this? It is from the table. If your format of the equation or formula is in this form, just like this one, therefore, your focus is on the point of p and 0. Next, we have directrix. So the equation of the directrix is in the form of x equals negative p. You will just substitute the value of p since we have positive 7. So 7 times negative is negative 7. Therefore, the equation of the directrix is x equals negative 7. So we have now the equation of the directrix and the point of the focus. At the same time, we have identified the value of p. Next, in order for us to identify whether our parabola opens right way or on the left side, we have to identify if p is lesser than or greater than 0. Since here, p is greater than 0, so the parabola opens to the right. And we will now graph this equation using the given values that we had found out a while ago. Okay, so we have here now the graph of this example number 1. We have here the y-axis, and this is the x-axis. So how to plot the graph? All you need to do is to remember that the vertex of this graph is located at the origin. So it should pass at the origin, or the vertex should be in the origin. Next, since our focus is on the point 7 and 0, 7 here is located on the x-axis rather, and 0 is the y-axis. Since our focus is on 7 and 0, and your y-axis or y-intercept is 0, so this is y-intercept. Since wala man tayong given 1 or 2 or 3, so therefore, dito yung y-intercept natin. As you can still remember, if we're going to plot a certain point, it is the intersection of the y and x intercept. So the y-intercept is 0, and the x-intercept is 7. Therefore, their intersection is here. So you just need to count from the origin 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So you have it here. Next, from the origin also going to the directrix, take note, the opposite side of the vertex is the directrix. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Therefore, we have negative 7. Can you follow? Okay, very good. Next, you have here the point of x that is equal to negative 7. This is the equation of your directrix. And you have to draw here a line. Take note, this is a line because it has an arrow. It extends in both directions. If it doesn't have arrow, it will not be considered line anymore. It is line segment. It is just a part of a line. However, here we will use line. Next, so how do we obtain this curve? For this problem, it is just an estimation of how wide is the opening of our parabola, or how narrow. I just estimated this because we were not able to find the distance of the latus rectum. In later part of the problems that I will give you, I will give some details about how to find the opening, or how wide is the opening of the parabola, how narrow is the opening of the parabola. Another set of problem naman yon. Pero dito kasi, in-estimate lang kung gaano kalaki. Hindi naman siguro tayo magdo-draw ng estimation na magmukha na siyang oblong. Take note, parabola is like a bell-shaped. Parang bell-shaped siya. Something like that. Again, the vertex is here at the origin. The focus is located at the point 7 and 0. So, lalagyan mo dito ng point. And, ang tawag dito sa line that passes through the point or the focus and going to both sides of the curve or the parabola, ang tawag dyan is latus rectum. Latus rectum. Again, ano nga ang tawag niyan? Ano yung ating kailangan i-consider in finding the opening, or in determining the direction of the opening of the parabola? It depends on the value of P. Take note, it depends on the value of P, whether it is greater than 0 or less than 0. And also, on the given equation. If your equation is in this form, therefore, your parabola opens to either left or right. Right or left. For example number 2, we have y squared that is equal to negative 16x. And the formula is y squared that is equal to 4px. So this formula was taken from the characteristics of the parabola with a vertex at 0, 0, shown at your book. And also, in order for us to find for the value of p, we have to take this part of our equation, which is negative 16. So therefore, we have 4p is equal to negative 16. In order for us to divide, or in order for us to find the value of p, we need to divide both sides by positive 4. So 4p divided by 4 is equal to p. Negative 16 divided by positive 4 is equal to negative 4. And the format of the focus of the parabola with axis of symmetry in horizontal manner, we have point P and 0. So we will just substitute the value of P, which is negative 4, and we will have this point at negative 4 and 0. And for the equation of the directrix, it is in the format of x equals negative P. And we will just substitute the value of P, which is negative 4. So we have here x equals negative from the format times the value of P, which is negative 4. So negative times negative is equal to positive 4. Always remember the rule of signs, or the rules of signs. In multiplication, if the signs are like or the same, it will give you a positive answer. But if you have unlike signs in multiplication, it will give you negative answer. And here, we will identify if the parabola opens on the left or on the right. all we need to consider is to identify whether the value of p is greater than or less than 0. But here we have negative 4. Obviously, it is less than 0. So, the parabola opens to the left. And we will graph the parabola or the curve of this equation. So, here is the graph of our equation. We have here the focus on point negative 4 and 0. And the directrix in the equation of x that is equal to 4. This is the line of the directrix. Since the axis of symmetry is in horizontal manner, it follows that the axis of symmetry is the x-axis. And the directrix is in vertical manner. So, in the opening of the parabola, how are we going to identify the how wide it is or how narrow it is? So in this topic, we will not discuss it, but in later discussion, we will have some problems about how we are going to identify how wide the parabola is or how narrow the parabola is. But here, we are just doing some estimation of the opening or how wide is the opening of our parabola. What is important here is we plotted correctly the focus and the directrix, because the problem is just asking, we need to find the parabola or the curve of the parabola, the point of the focus or the coordinate of the focus, and the equation of the directrix. So we have it here in this graph. Okay, so let's move on to our next example. We have 2x squared plus 5y equals 0. In this equation, we can see here that we have x squared, so it follows that this equation should be transformed into the format of x squared equals 4py. So in doing so, we will have this process. So we have to transfer positive 5y into the other side of the equation. In making that, the sign of 5y will change into negative, since transferring any value from the other side of the equation into the other side will give you opposite value of sign or opposite sign from its original format. So we have here 2x squared equals negative 5y kasi nilipat natin si negative or si positive 5y kaya naging negative 5y. And next, we have to divide both sides of the equation by positive 2 to eliminate 2 here. So we have 2x squared divided by 2 is x squared. Negative 5y divided by 2 is still negative 5 over 2y, since we cannot divide this. Though we can divide this using, and it will give us negative, it will give us decimal answer or decimal number. But here, we will not do it because we will make use of fraction. So we have to divide or we have to find p. And here in x squared equals negative 5 over 2y, negative 5 over 2 represents the 4p. So we have here 4p is equal to negative 5 over 2. Next, we have to divide both sides of this equation by 4 to eliminate 4 and to find the value of p. So we have here 4p divided by 4 is p, and negative 5 over 2 divided by 4 looks like this, or should be done using this process. In dividing numbers into fractions, all we need to do is just copy the numerator, the number found at the top of the division bar. So we have negative 5 over 2. And take note, 4 here is a whole number. And whole number has always a denominator of 1. So we have 4 over 1. And in dividing these numbers, we need to copy the numerator and multiply the reciprocal of our denominator into our numerator. So the reciprocal of 4 is 1/4. That's the process. Take note of that. Again, in multiplying or dividing these numbers, we will just copy the numerator and multiply the reciprocal of our denominator to our numerator, which is 1/4. So we will just multiply the numerators to numerators and denominators to denominators. So we have negative 5 times 1, negative 5, 2 times 4, 8. So the value of our p is equal to negative 5 over 8. So the focus is in the format of 0 and p. So we will just substitute the value of p, which is negative 5 over 8. So we have this coordinate. Next, the equation of the directrix is in the form of y equals negative p. Again, we will just substitute the value of p here. So we have y equals negative times the value of p, which is negative 5 over 8. So negative times negative is positive 5 over 8. So for us to determine whether the graph opens upward or downward, we will consider the value of p if it is less than or greater than 0. So here we have negative 5 over 8. So it follows that negative 5 over 8 is less than 0. So p is less than 0. So that the parabola opens downward. Okay, so we have here the graph of our equation 2x squared plus 5y equals 0. We have here the x-axis, the y-axis, and this is the curve or the graph of our parabola. So we have here the point of the focus, and the line that passes through the focus is what we call the latus rectum. We just estimated the opening of the parabola, if how wide or how narrow it is, because we are not yet familiar about the process on how to find the opening or the scope of the opening of the parabola. So here we have 0 as the x-intercept, so 0. And if we're going to align this with our y-intercept, which is negative 5 over 8, so the point should be here. And also, since we have here fraction, all we need to do in plotting graph is to get its decimal form. But we will not display it here or write it here, the decimal form of it, but it is only used for the plotting of the point. So here, I divided it, and 5 over 8 is equal exactly to 0.625, or in estimation, we have 0.63. So I just estimated the distance from the vertex or from the center of the Cartesian, and we have here the focus, and opposite side of it is the directrix, and we have here the line of the directrix and the equation of the directrix. So we have this graph for our equation.